There was a gray hoodie in our laundry basket that didn't belong to either of us. I noticed it at 6:42 a.m. while sorting out clothes before my coffee. It was wrinkled, smelled like cologne I didn't wear, and had the name Kellen stitched into the inner collar. Not printed. Stitched. Like it mattered. Maisie was still asleep upstairs. I stood in the laundry room holding it like a bomb, waiting for it to explain itself. We live alone. We don't have guests. We don't own anything with names stitched in. And yet here it was, a gray hoodie I had never seen before, folded between her workout leggings and a t-shirt I did recognize. My old college shirt. The one she used to sleep in when she actually slept next to me. I didn't say anything right away. I just kept doing the laundry. Because that's what you do when you don't want to know the truth. You keep your hands busy and your mouth shut. Later that morning, I placed the hoodie on the kitchen chair. Front and center. No comment. No note. She didn't mention it when she came down. Just made coffee, scrolled her phone, and stepped over it like it wasn't even there. So I said nothing. I watched. I waited. I paid attention to the way she avoided sitting down, to the way her fingers twitched near it but never touched it. That same evening, she told me she was going to a little birthday get-together for someone from work. A guy named Ben. Or Brent. Something like that. I don't remember. I wasn't really listening after she said she'd be going alone. I didn't argue. I just nodded and said, okay. I didn't ask questions. I stayed silent. I stayed silent when she left the house wearing lip gloss I hadn't seen in over a year. Silent when I saw the Uber pull away. Silent when I saw the same gray hoodie. That damn hoodie was gone from the chair. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I found something that shattered the silence in a way I can never unhear. Maisie came back at 3:11 a.m. I know that exact time because I wasn't asleep. I hadn't even pretended to be. I was sitting in the dark living room with only the kitchen light on, scrolling through photos on my phone from 5 years ago. Back when she used to fall asleep on my chest during movies. Back when her texts made my phone light up like Christmas instead of burning holes in my gut. When the front door clicked, I didn't move. Just listened. Keys hit the counter. Shoes off. Quiet footsteps. Then the soft creak of the stairs. She didn't call out to me. Didn't say she was home. She knew I was awake. She just chose not to care. 10 minutes later, I walked up to our bedroom. The door was open, lights off, and she was already under the covers. Or at least, that's how it looked at first. But as I stepped closer, I noticed two things immediately. First, she wasn't breathing evenly. She was fake sleeping, the kind where the body tries too hard to look natural, like an actor overplaying a simple line. Second, the gray hoodie was draped over the back of her chair. Again, like it had come home with her. Like it had its own place here now. I didn't say a word. Didn't even touch it. I went to the guest room and closed the door behind me. And that's where I started keeping notes. Not like a psycho. I wasn't sniffing her perfume or tracking GPS signals. Just writing things down. Times. Names. Slip-ups. Not for revenge. Not for proof. Just for clarity. I needed to see it on paper to believe I wasn't imagining it all. The next few days were tense in that fake sweet way. She started bringing home pastries I didn't ask for. Random gifts. A mug with my name on it. A lavender candle. She even asked how my day was, twice. You'd think I'd be happy, but it all felt rehearsed. Like someone apologizing without saying the word sorry. Then came the voicemail. It landed in our shared inbox. The one for our phone plan we'd forgotten even existed. I got the notification by accident while paying our bill online. It was from a number with no name. A man's voice. He said, "Hey, tell your husband I like the soup. Maybe next time I'll cook for you." That was it. No context. No name. Just that. Soup. The most ordinary word, and it felt like a punch to the chest. We hadn't eaten soup together in weeks. I hadn't made any. So who did? I walked into the kitchen and checked the trash. Nothing unusual until I opened the outside bin. Under a pile of junk mail and takeout containers, I found it. A plastic container. Half full. Broccoli cheddar. Not from any place we ever ordered from. Homemade. She made soup. For someone else. And never mentioned it. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to see how far this would go. I wanted to know what else she forgot to hide. But I was running out of things I could pretend not to see. The thing about lies is, they rot from the inside out. At first, everything looks fine. Still. Quiet. Normal. Then, one day, you open the fridge and the milk's gone sour. even though the expiration date says it shouldn't be. That's how it felt with Maisie. She looked the same. She laughed the same. She said, "I love you," the same way she always did, but something under the surface was festering. I started checking everything. Not because I wanted to catch her, because I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to find a logical explanation for every strange moment. For the hoodie, for the voicemail, for the soup I didn't eat. It was a Sunday afternoon when I found the calendar. We share an old Google Calendar account from back when we were wedding planning. We hadn't used it in years, but it was still connected to my laptop. And I have no idea what pushed me to open it. Maybe boredom, maybe obsession, but I did. And there it was, marked in green. Thursday, 6 p.m., call with Kellen Wineglass. Kellen, the name stitched inside the hoodie. I stared at it for a full minute, like it might rewrite itself. The little wine glass emoji at the end, that was hers. She always used that one when we had date nights. She said it looked fancy. It was our thing. And now it was his. I clicked on the event. No location. Just a brief note. Don't forget to mention Prague. And the fake book club thing. What the hell was that supposed to mean? I sat there frozen, trying to put together a version of events that made sense. A coworker, maybe? Some dumb inside joke? But the more I thought about it, the more it unraveled. She hadn't mentioned Prague in over a year. We were supposed to go there for our anniversary, but the trip got canceled when I broke my foot and she never brought it up again. Until now, apparently. To someone else. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I called in sick for work. Told my principal I had food poisoning. I didn't. I just needed time to breathe. Time to dig. Maisie left for work like nothing was wrong. Kissed my cheek. Wore her hair tied up in that way that always meant she had meetings. I watched her drive away, then sat down at the kitchen table with a notebook and started writing everything I knew. Every weird comment. Every late night. Every unexplained smile at her phone. I tried to map it all, like a crime scene. String and pins and dates, if only in my mind. By noon, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to follow her. That Thursday at 5:45 p.m., I parked 2 blocks from her office building in my dusty Toyota Corolla and waited. My hands were shaking on the wheel like I was about to commit a felony. I reminded myself this wasn't crazy. I wasn't stalking my wife. I was protecting myself, trying to find out what my marriage had become when I wasn't looking. At 6:02, she came out. She wasn't alone. She was laughing, full-bodied, head-tilted laughter I hadn't seen in months. And the man walking beside her was tall, bearded, with rolled-up sleeves and that casual arrogance you only see in guys who know they're wanted. He wasn't touching her, but he didn't need to. The electricity between them was disgusting. And then I saw it. She was wearing the hoodie. His hoodie. In public. Like a badge. Like I didn't exist. They turned the corner, disappeared into a wine bar I'd never been to. I didn't follow them inside. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Something broke in me that night. Not just trust. Not even love. Hope. I think that was the moment I realized. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. One she'd been making for weeks. Maybe months. And it was time I made a choice of my own. The following morning, I stared at myself in the mirror for 10 minutes straight. Not because I was looking for answers. I knew by now there wouldn't be any. I was studying my own face, like a suspect. Trying to figure out what version of me she had fallen out of love with. Was it the soft eyes? The thinning hair? The part of me that made soup instead of cocktails? Or maybe the part that forgave too easily, smiled too politely, and slept too lightly? I didn't go to work that day either. I couldn't. How could I stand in front of 25 teenagers and lecture about the Civil War while my own life was splitting down the middle like a rotten plank? Instead, I went through the motions of being a functioning adult. I cleaned the garage, washed the dishes, took out the trash. But my mind was elsewhere the entire time, orbiting around that one image of her in the gray hoodie, brushing past that man with a smile like she owed him something. Like she wanted to. That evening, when Maisie got home, I played the part. I smiled. I kissed her on the forehead. I asked how her day was. She said, busy, and poured herself a glass of wine. Red, not white, even though she always hated the bitter taste. I watched her drink it like it was a routine now. A learned behavior. Something someone else taught her. Dinner? I asked casually. She blinked. I already ate. Where? With who? I nodded. Cool. I'll make something light. And I did, not because I was hungry, but because I wanted to keep her there. In the kitchen. Talking. moving, giving me details. Anything. But she didn't. She retreated to the bedroom, phone in hand, as always. Door open, but the signal was clear. I waited until she was in the shower. That's when I did it. I opened her purse. I know how that sounds. I'm not proud of it. But at that point, pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. I had no intentions of stealing, no plan for confrontation. I just wanted to see. I needed some kind of artifact to prove I wasn't losing my grip. Inside, it smelled like her perfume, lavender and something sweeter I didn't recognize. There was a receipt from a liquor store I'd never been to. A small pack of gum. And then I saw it, folded in half, tucked beside her sunglasses case. A postcard. It wasn't mailed. No stamp, no address. Just a picture of Prague on one side. On the back, written in black ink, were 5 words. Maybe one day. Just us. No signature. Just that. I froze. I turned it over again. The Charles Bridge. The castle. Tourists caught mid-step. That was supposed to be our trip. Now it was some secret signal, a dream they'd passed back and forth behind my back. Prague. The place where she once told me she wanted to walk barefoot along the cobblestones at midnight, eating gelato like a teenager. Now it was his fantasy, not mine. I heard the water stop. I closed her bag, stepped back like it had burned me, and walked straight to the guest room. Locked the door. Sat on the bed. And for the first time since this all started, I cried. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, pathetic tears that made my chest ache. I cried because I finally knew the answer to the question I had been too afraid to ask. She wasn't thinking about leaving me. She was planning it. And she wasn't going to tell me until he was ready to catch her. But here's the thing she didn't know. I was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Again, I lay in bed with the image of that damn postcard burned into my retinas. The words "just us" replaying like a cruel little mantra in my head. I kept asking myself questions I didn't want answers to. How long had they been seeing each other? Had they kissed yet? Slept together? Lied about me? Laughed about me? By 4:13 a.m., I gave up trying to rest and walked into the hallway. I stood outside our bedroom, listening to the gentle hum of white noise she always needed to fall asleep. The soft, artificial rain sounds coming from her phone, the same one she never let me touch anymore. And that's when the thought hit me. Her laptop. She barely used it anymore. Said it was too slow, that her phone was more convenient. But I knew she still logged into it for Zoom calls and photo transfers. It was downstairs, unattended, plugged in and idle. I hesitated for a long time at the edge of the stairs. Something about what I was about to do crossed a line in me, not just morally, but emotionally. This was no longer about suspicion. This was about survival. I powered it on. It took almost a full minute to boot, the fan wheezing like an old man. Her password was still the same, the name of our first cat. We had put him down 2 years ago. I wondered if she ever thought of that when she typed it in. If she missed anything about this life. I opened her browser. Cleared history. Nothing suspicious. Then I went deeper. I opened her Photos app. At first glance, it was normal. Folders full of family trips, holiday parties, random recipes. But then I saw it. A folder labeled recycle_01. It was in her trash. Buried. Hidden. But not gone. I restored it with a double click, heart pounding like I was defusing a bomb. It opened slowly, too slowly. The thumbnails were blank for a second, then began to load. One by one. Image after image. Dozens of them. Maisie. In different outfits. In different places I didn't recognize. Bars. Rooftops. A living room that wasn't ours. Sitting beside a man who only ever showed up in fragments. An arm. A profile. A shadow near her wine glass. Sometimes she was smiling. Sometimes he was holding the camera. Sometimes she wasn't even looking. And in one of them, the one that made my stomach drop, she was wearing a ring. Not her wedding ring. That had been off her hand for 2 months, ever since she said it irritated her skin. No, this was something else. Silver. Slim. New. On her right hand, yes. But still, that's not the kind of thing you wear by accident. Then I saw the video files. My fingers hovered over them, but I didn't open any. I couldn't. Instead, I transferred the entire folder onto a USB drive, labeled it with a random number, deleted it again, emptied the trash, and then I sat there staring at the blinking cursor on her search bar. I wanted to type something. Anything. Why? Do you love him? Was it me? But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew there was no version of her answer that would make any of this easier. So I did the next best thing. I booked a session with a lawyer. Her name was Evelyn Carr. Recommended online as the kind who didn't ask questions, just made things move. I told her I wasn't ready to file yet, just that I needed to know my options. What was mine? What was hers? What a quiet, clean exit might look like. She told me I was smart for calling before confrontation. That gave me leverage. I didn't feel smart. I felt like a man bleeding out in a suit. But at least I wasn't pretending anymore. And the weirdest part? I didn't feel angry. Not yet. I felt curious. Because for the first time in weeks, I wasn't wondering what she was going to do next. I was wondering what I would. That entire week, I lived like a ghost inside my own house. She didn't notice. Not really. Maisie kept moving through her routines with the precision of someone who had already made peace with the lie. Morning coffee. Quick showers. Hair tied up. Her phone always face down when I entered the room, and her smile, the kind that's all muscle memory and no heart, deployed on autopilot whenever I looked at her too long. It was easy, I suppose, to ignore me now. I was polite, quiet, predictable. I didn't ask where she was going. I didn't question the sudden new gym sessions, the unreadable conversations that made her eyes sparkle at dinner, or the charger she started carrying everywhere like a teenager trying to stay connected to something urgent. She was counting on my silence. What she didn't realize was that I was using it. Because every hour she thought I was disconnected, I was actually getting more clarity. And for the first time in months, I felt present. Not in the way that clings to a dying marriage, but in the way that quietly rewrites the ending before anyone else realizes it's begun. It started small. I pulled every shared document from our Google Drive and moved it to a private folder. Changed the password. I ordered new bank cards and rerouted the statements to a box I opened on my lunch break. I downloaded copies of our mortgage, insurance policies, and all the joint account activity for the last 6 months, and I did it from a library computer 2 towns over. I wasn't hiding. I was protecting something I should have guarded years ago myself. On Friday, I made dinner. Something simple, grilled salmon with lemon and garlic. Her favorite. She came home late again, looking flustered and tired and maybe a little too surprised to see me with an apron on. "You cooked?" she asked, eyebrows raised. I smiled. "Yeah, thought it'd be nice." She sat across from me, and we ate like strangers. She complimented the fish. I thanked her. We spoke about surface-level things, traffic, weather, work. She asked if I'd ever consider traveling alone someday, just to reset. I said maybe. I asked her if Prague was still on her mind. She nearly dropped her fork. Silence. Then she smiled. "You always remembered that," she said, but her voice cracked just slightly, like a window under pressure. I didn't answer. I just nodded and poured her more wine. Later that night, while she was brushing her teeth, I went to the bedroom and opened the drawer where she kept her jewelry. Her rings, her bracelets, all neatly arranged. Except one was missing. Not her wedding ring. That had been missing for months. A thin silver band. The same one I'd seen in the hidden photos. It was gone, and I had no doubt it wasn't lost. She was wearing it somewhere else. For someone else. I closed the drawer and walked to the backyard, phone in hand, and called Evelyn, the lawyer. "It's time," I said. She didn't need clarification. I gave her the date. But here's the twist. I wasn't going to confront Maisie. Not yet. Not with yelling or tears or some dramatic accusation scene. I didn't want closure. I didn't want apologies. I didn't even want the truth anymore. What I wanted was for her to look at me one day soon and realize I had already left, even while I was still standing right in front of her. Because when someone builds an entire fantasy with someone else, you don't shatter it by fighting your way in. You let it collapse under its own lies. And you make sure that when it does, you're already long gone. It was a Tuesday when the world finally tilted. Not loudly. Not with fireworks. Not with a scream or a slap or some tearful, I can explain. Just the quiet shift. Barely audible. Like when the air pressure drops right before a storm, and everything feels wrong, but nothing looks broken yet. Maisie was in the shower. Steam drifted down the hallway. I heard her humming, the same song she'd been obsessed with months ago, back when she used to send me the link every time a new remix dropped. That habit vanished, like everything else she once shared freely. I sat at the kitchen table in my usual seat. The USB drive was in my hand, hot from the pressure of my grip. I'd stared at it for hours the night before, debating whether to open it again. But I didn't. I already knew what was in there. I didn't need to poison myself twice. Some truths are more corrosive the second time around. Instead, I made a choice. I opened her laptop, sat it in the middle of the table, and loaded the folder. Full screen. All of it. The pictures, the video thumbnails, the postcard photo I had scanned and saved. Then I left it open. Walked away. No note. No warning. Let the truth do the talking. She came downstairs 30 minutes later. Her hair still wet, phone in one hand, sipping coffee from the mug I got her last Christmas, the one with both our initials. She walked into the kitchen like it was just another morning in our well-rehearsed little play. And then she saw it. She didn't gasp, didn't scream. She just froze, like someone had paused her mid-breath. Her eyes flicked across the screen, and for a moment, just one small, brutal moment, I saw her soul leave her body. It was there in the twitch at the corner of her mouth, the rigid way her shoulders locked in place. She didn't even touch the trackpad, just stared. I was across the house, but I heard her footsteps retreat fast and quiet. 15 minutes later, I heard her car engine. She was gone. No note. No text. Just like that. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. That night, she didn't come home. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. A single message. I need time. That was it. No, I'm sorry. No explanation. Not even a lie. I didn't respond. Instead, I sat in the dark with the lights off and imagined her sitting beside him, crying into a glass of wine, blaming me for making her feel cornered, telling him I'd invaded her privacy, twisting the narrative so that she got to be the one with the broken heart. The next morning, I called Evelyn again. I want the papers delivered to her at work, I said. You're sure? She asked, gentle but professional. Yes, I said, swallowing the burn in my throat. And I want them to include the clause about the house. It stays with me. Maisie had loved the house. She picked it, painted it, decorated every room. But she hadn't touched it in months. The flowers in the front yard were dead. The guest room, where I slept now, was spotless. It was my house now. She just hadn't realized it yet. 3 days passed. No call. No text. Just silence. Not the kind that's peaceful. The kind that screams from every corner of the room. Then, on Friday night, around 10:30 p.m., her car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the window as she sat inside, engine running, headlights on. She didn't move. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then the lights shut off. Still, she didn't get out. Eventually, she stepped out into the night. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was in a loose, tired knot. And in her arms was the hoodie. His hoodie, folded. She walked up the steps slowly, like every inch was heavier than the last, and placed the hoodie on the welcome mat. Then she turned, walked back to her car, and left. I didn't open the door. I didn't move. I just stared at that bundle of fabric like it was a burned-out star. Because that was all it was now, a reminder of a version of her that no longer existed, and of a version of me I would never allow again. That hoodie stayed on the doorstep for 2 days. I never touched it, never moved it. The wind knocked it over once, and I left it there, crumpled like a forgotten apology. The weather turned cold. Rain fell. Still, I let it sit, soaked and heavy. Let it become part of the earth again. It didn't belong to me. It never did. On the third day, the papers were delivered to her office. Evelyn confirmed she signed them the same afternoon. No fight. No contest. Just a simple signature in a silent conference room, the same way she'd exited my life. Clean, professional, unfinished. There was no final conversation. No "can we talk?" text. She didn't come back for her things. I had them boxed up and sent to a storage unit I prepaid for 6 months. A short email with the key code was all I gave her. I didn't ask for closure. I'd already found it. The night after the papers were finalized, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, black, strong, no sugar, no background music, no white noise machine humming through the walls. Just silence. But this time, it felt different. Lighter. Somewhere around midnight, I started laughing. A quiet, breathy, ridiculous laugh that surprised even me. Not because I found any of it funny, but because I had survived. Somehow. Even when I thought I wouldn't. The next morning, I made soup. Not for her. For me. Not some gourmet performance like before, just simple tomato basil, with a grilled cheese sandwich on the side. I sat at the table, sunlight pouring in through the window, and ate every bite slowly, like it mattered. Because it did. because it meant I was still here. That afternoon, I went for a walk. No destination, no music, just the rhythm of my own footsteps on the sidewalk, my hands in my pockets, the cold air filling my lungs in a way that made me feel real again. I passed couples, dogs, families, a kid riding a scooter too fast, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. I wasn't the ghost version of myself anymore. I was a man rebuilding, not from rage, but from ruin. A week later, I deleted the folder from the USB drive. Not because I forgave her, but because I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need evidence to remember who I had been or who she had chosen to become. She became a chapter, not a sentence, and I turned the page. Now, sometimes, I still hear that old song she used to hum in the shower. It plays at the grocery store or in a passing car window, and for a second, I freeze. But then I smile. Not because I miss her, but because I don't.